Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early. It's 3:20 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, so I'm going through the news stories this morning, and I see this story on Donald Trump Jr., and he's pontificating. He's going on and on. He's talking about Washington Post journalists and how they're just entitled rich kids. How they're probably the kids that their parents paid for their car insurance. And he actually says this, and their cell phone service when they were younger, and they got participation trophies. This is Donald Trump Jr. talking about this. So I was going to do a story on that, but what I just said pretty much sums it up. I haven't checked my analytics yet. But I did a story yesterday, and I thought twice about it because it was a weird story, but it was a true story, and it got me thinking. And I was like, why don't I talk about that? And I did. I haven't checked the analytics yet. I'm curious to see if it got more views than my political stuff. So same thing this morning. I was thinking about talking about Donald Trump Jr. and I remembered something that stuck in my mind yesterday, and I want to talk to you guys about it. Let me start by saying, as a recovering addict, losing control. I've been clean sober for over 16 years now. Losing control of my surroundings, my willpower. That's my biggest fear in the world. I've talked about this before. Like I did this one video a while back that said I lied. And I talked about when I had one glass of champagne, and one glass in the last 16 years, and I just stopped right there, and I didn't want any more because I got this fear of being out of control. That's the biggest fear for me as a recovering addict. And one of the things that I still have a hard time controlling is my temper. Outrage. I get this numbness in my hands. I feel the adrenaline just rush through my body, and from here down, my hands start to get numb, and I'll start getting like a tunnel vision, and I don't hear, I don't see, I just get like a bullseye. It's scary. This is something I never talked about, and I just remembered it this morning. CVS. I came out of an NA meeting. This was at the Library Hospital in Connecticut. It's a big NA meeting. I was running the NA meeting. There was a big meeting of about 60 people, and they elected me to be up front and run the meeting for about 3 months. We finished up the meeting, and I went to a CVS up the street, and I was buying some cold medicine or something. And there were 2 registers open, and there was one line. So whichever register opened first, the person would go to the open register. And I was next up in line, and some tall guy comes up. And he looks at the line, he looks at me, and right then one of the registers opened up, and he just goes right to it. And the adrenaline. This was before I even had a YouTube channel. I've never talked about this before. I put it out of my mind. And I went up to him, and he bought something quick, and then I said, hey, didn't you, I started talking smack. I whispered into his ear. I went up behind him. I said, didn't you see me in line? What? I said, what am I effing invisible to you? And he turned around, and apparently he didn't think I was much of a challenge. And he gets right up in my face. This is after he paid for his stuff, and I could see everybody around us watching, but I'm starting to get that tunnel vision. I'm like, I'm in this. I don't care if I go to jail. I don't care what the consequences. I'm just getting this tunnel vision. My hands are getting numb, and the guy gets right up here. And he's like, what are you going to do about it? And he pokes me. Right then, I don't even remember doing this. I headbutted him, and I hit him I hit high. I hit right about here on his head, and he went flying back, and he knocked over. He actually looked like he sat down in a big cardboard box filled with, I think it had like Hershey's Kisses in it or something. And he fell into it, and he fell over. And I just ran at him, and right then I felt arms on my people holding me back. And they pulled me back. And we went in the back room. Finally, the guys that hauled me back there let go of me. And they asked him if he wanted to press charges. And he said, nah. He actually says this. He says, that guy hits like a girl. He says, I'm not considered, his pride was hurt. We're in the back room now. And he's like, nah, just let him go. It's like a girl anyway, because he's all embarrassed. So I'm fine with this. I just want to get out of the store now. And so he just storms out. CVS employees, the manager's talking to me. He says we won't call the cops. We won't press charges. But he says we have your picture, and you are not allowed in CVS's for the next year anywhere. Any CVS anywhere in Connecticut. I guess in Connecticut. I don't know if he said Connecticut, but I could not go into a CVS for 12 months after that, or I'd be arrested. That's what they told me. And I didn't go in one. I remember I started dating the first girl I dated, Paula, and I didn't know how to tell her this. We went to go into a CVS, and I was like, I gotta wait outside. And I eventually ended up telling her. She had a lot of compassion and sympathy for my story. But the reason I'm telling you this is yesterday, I went to a car parts store, and my mother was looking for things to buy me for Christmas. So she said, Daryl, if you see anything, let me know. And I wanted to get the club for car thefts for my car, because there's been a rash of car thefts around here. So I went out to eat with my mother yesterday. I bought her breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts, and there's a car parts store next door. So I go in with my mom, and we go look at the clubs because she wants to buy me this for Christmas. We're looking at the clubs, and there's a couple. This town is Terryville, Connecticut, and it is a hillbilly town. Full of Trump supporters. There's Trump flags hanging from dead trees and clotheslines all over town. They're from 2016. They've lost all the blue. They're like white and all tattered. This is where I saw the Trump 2023 flag I told you about. And I made a video not too long back about a Trump protest, a Stop the Steal protest. There was one in Thomaston, but there was one in Terryville too. It's a small hick town full of these people. And there's about 3 guys in there. There's a young guy. There's a young. They all look like they've been working on cars. And there's 2 big, huge guys up front. There's a tall, skinny guy, and then there's a young kid. The young kid, I'm going by him to go to the clubs, and I had to squeeze by him, and I said, "Excuse me." And I heard him say something. I said, "Excuse me." And I walked past him, and I heard him say something. I don't know what it was as I went by, something wise. And that's when I got the first bad feeling. So we're looking at the clubs. Now the tall guy, and they're all dressed the same. They're all wearing the greasy mechanic coats, the Wranglers, the work boots that they've had for 15 years. They're no soles. And the tall, skinny guy says, me and my mom are talking to each other, and the tall, skinny guy says, you're throwing your money away on that. And he starts telling us how, he's one of those lonely guys that just keeps talking and talking. Eventually, I walked away. My mother didn't have she's not rude like that, but he just kept going on and on. He didn't stop. I didn't ask him any questions, and he just started talking about how he cuts off the fuel line. The best way to stop people from stealing cars is to cut off the fuel line. And he used to have a garage, but he doesn't have a garage anymore. He just picks the people that he wants to fix their cars because some people want to steal from him and blah, 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 blah. And he doesn't stop talking. He doesn't even give us a chance to walk away. So I just ended up turning and walking away. And I was telling my mom, just, forget him. He's going to keep talking forever. So we go up in front. Now, this is where these 2 other huge guys are. And these are all your Trump supporters, your basic, big Trump supporters. And there's 2 guys up front. And then the kid that I walked by comes up and he starts talking with them. And I didn't think they were in line. They're standing there just talking about campers and Maine and fishing and getting drunk. And I just kind of tuned it out. And I went to go up to the cash register, and my mother's like, they're in line. So I was like, oh, excuse me. I went back to the back of the line. And these guys are just they're in front of this cash register for about 15 minutes. And the kid goes behind the cash register. There's a girl there working. And he just takes it upon himself to kind of push her out of the way and start looking on the computer himself. And he's showing the other guys, is it this part? And they're like, no. And then they start talking about fishing again. Is it this part? No. And they just push the girl out of the way and start looking at the computer themselves. And they don't work there. And I'm in amazement. she goes to find another part, and they start talking about her backside. And these guys, I can see the wedding rings on all their fingers, and they're joking around about her not wearing a bra and her back. And I'm embarrassed. I'm there with my almost 80-year-old mother, and she's listening to all this. And I can start to feel the adrenaline rushing through me. I'm starting to get angry. We've been waiting for like 15 minutes. These guys, I told my mother, I said, these guys are just hiding out from their families. They don't want to go home. They'll stay there all day just to talk about this and that. And it's like the town meeting to them. Then a black guy walks in. I swear to God, carrying a battery. Black guy walks in. And they weren't paying attention to me or anybody else, but their heads, all three of their heads turn around. And I couldn't believe this. One of them says to the black guy, he says, "We don't carry batteries in here." Now, keep in mind, he doesn't even work there. And the black guy stops. He goes, "Oh, really?" And then the guys go, "Nah, we're just kidding." And they're like, "Ha ha ha ha!" They're laughing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! You gotta be kidding me! Did they just really do that? They weren't paying attention to me or anybody else. But as soon as that guy walked in the door, they turned to him and they said they said it was a joke to them. This really happened yesterday, and I'm just starting to steam. I probably look like one of those woke guys. I'm wearing these sneakers. I'm wearing my my Calvin Klein jacket. And these guys probably don't know, what lurks in this mind. I'm really not somebody you want to screw with. Eventually, they moved out of the way, and they must have been able to tell that I was getting angry, because the kid, finally, they settled on a part, and the kid goes, "We'll get out of these nice people's way." And he didn't say it facetiously or sarcastically. He said it seriously, because I was like, I told my mother, I was like, I'm losing my temper here. And they turned around and looked at me at that point. And that's when they kind of hurried up. And we went outside, and it was done. But that was my day yesterday. I think sometimes people underestimate. They look at somebody like me, and, they get married. I don't think they care about their looks. I don't know if they ever cared about their bodies or their looks or their health or anything like that. And they look at somebody like me, and they just think about what they hear Donald Trump Jr. saying about woke people and participation trophies and all this other stuff. And they don't know what they're really dealing with somebody like me. And I'm telling my mother, I was worried. I thought, my mother was going to have to get bail money. I was terrified because I didn't want my mother to get hurt in the scuffle. Because once I lost my temper, I start to black out. And, and I was starting to get scared that this was going to happen. And I'm outside, and I start to get the feeling back in my hands. Even just talking about it now, I could feel the rush of adrenaline through my body. So that's what happened yesterday. Tell me what you think, especially about the black guy coming in and them just focusing on him with like laser, with their joke. All right, you guys have a good Sunday.